Welcome to the Intuitive Therapist Podcast with Janis Cohen, therapist, clairvoyant, empath, and medium. Listen in as she takes a no-nonsense deep dive into real human struggles and how to resolve them. Janis will share channeled information from her spirit guide team, as well as the angels and archangels, to help you master your emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual destiny. And now, Janis R. Cohen.
Hey y'all, this is Janis Cohen, the Intuitive Therapist, here on the Intuitive Therapist Podcast. I want to talk to you today about options, and I want to talk to you today about feeling stuck in your life. And you might already know this, but if you don't, I'm about to tell you something. We create our own obstacles in our life. And those obstacles live very comfortably in our minds. I was talking with a client the other day who was sharing her vision for the upcoming year. And after she told me what she'd imagined her life looking like in a year, I said to her, okay, I have to tell you a secret. Our human minds are incredibly limited. We actually only use 10% of our brain power, and that makes it difficult for us to imagine the amazing possibilities that are out there for us. And the universe has more amazing things in store for us than we could possibly imagine. And guess what? Our brains can never, ever wrap themselves around what's truly possible for us. In her case, she wasn't feeling stuck when we spoke. She was just having a tough time organizing her dreams. I mean, how amazing is that kind of position to be in? To feel like you have so many options, you don't even know where to start. And such a big vision. But what if you are feeling stuck in your life? Here's what I know about believing you're stuck and believing that your circumstances can't and won't change. Number one, the universe always has your back, and faith in what's possible is a must, even though you have no idea what might happen or what you're going to do when things happen. All right, so trust me, I know how hard it is to have faith when you're struggling financially, or you're in an unhealthy relationship, or working in a miserable job because you feel like you'll lose your financial security and more if you leave. I get it. But if you were to look back on your life and really look at how things turned out for yourself over time, you can't ignore the fact that many times in your life, you were knowingly or unknowingly spared from horrible things. That better people, better opportunities, and better experiences occurred that you could even possibly have imagined. Like you had no idea. I always say that you could never imagine what a difference a year makes. Like you have no clue. Just know there is better, always better out there for you beyond where your mind travels. Remember, we have our little human brains are so limited. There's so much more out there. The universe always has your back. And I really beg you to believe that and start trusting that. Number two, when you feel stuck between two options, you're in a bind. There are always more options that you've yet to allow yourself to know. When I first heard about this concept of being in a bind, like, you know, because I felt stuck many times in my life, but I didn't realize it was called a bind. When you only feel like you have two options, that's a bind, right? We only allow ourselves to think in terms of black and white. When I heard this concept, it was like, holy moly, this was an aha. It has forced me to always think of at least another option, if not two or three more. Even if I'll never consider the other options, there are always other options. So I've cultivated this mantra because of all this. And I say it to my mom all the time. And I say it to myself when I feel, disappointed because my expectations weren't met. I immediately go into this mantra. I say, it is what it is, and I'm not going to argue with the truth. So now what's my next step? The question of what is my next step is key to finding other options. There's always option C, D, E, and F. And sometimes, well, most of the time, our low P brains can't brainstorm on its own. So we've got to call on our resources, meaning other people, and also finding out more information about our dilemma, not just being stuck in our head. And almost always, the issue with not being able to imagine additional options has to do with the belief that you can't escape between the two that you've thought of. You're stuck. That's the bind. And it's a horrible way to live and will trap you in that dark hole of despair faster than you can imagine. So reach out to somebody you trust, and not always friends who will side with you because they can't tell you the truth or aren't capable of really helping you. You don't want niceties. You want real options. So seek out people whom you admire and find out what they think, and then think for yourself about what might be possible for you after you've talked to people. It's not necessarily about asking people what you should do, because you need to be the owner of that. But it's more so saying, what are my other options? What do you think are my other choices? That's the question. Okay? Number 3, you always have choice. Just because you might practice learned helplessness doesn't mean it's the truth. Doesn't mean it's the way to go. I honestly believe that we choose how we feel. We do how we feel, and we do on our own behalf, and who we surround, what we do on our own behalf, and what we surround ourselves with, y'all. We choose the quality of our lives each and every moment, depending on what we focus on and believe about our lives. Sometimes the most important choice is to give it up to higher power and wait for direction. I'm going through that now, in all honesty. My only option right now is to let go. If you're open to receiving guidance, you will at some point get it. But don't close your mind to the how of getting the guidance. Don't look for the how. Just open your mind to receiving, because the signs are subtle, and you could miss them if you're too invested in your own sadness and stuckness. Information comes to you in many ways, so allow yourself to take stock of the subtleties that guidance brings. A song on the radio, a TV commercial, or hearing the same thing from 3 or more people, 3 or more sources. Pay attention to all of the cues that you get, and then make a decision to make a different choice, even if you have no freaking clue what the outcome will be. You are quite capable of handling anything that life gives you, even if it feels debilitating. That's why God gives us people. That's why we have people in our lives and resources. We all need to lean on each other, and we can make the choice to do that. Number 4, your life circumstances are temporary, and they don't determine your outcome. Now, you may experience a long temporary with certain things, but change is inevitable. That's the one thing that doesn't stay the same. Change, right? Hopefully, sooner than later, change happens, and you'll get sick and tired of feeling stuck, and you'll either choose to cave into your learned helplessness, or you find a way out and you figure your shit out. You've changed your life in the past, and you can do that right now, even if the past changes have seemed minuscule or you minimize them. You've made them, and those decisions you've made have allowed you to become stronger and bolder than you ever were before. Circumstances change, and which circumstances change are up to you. and your attitude about how much you can influence your circumstances. Number 5, fear is the number one choice that stops you from making your life better. Anytime we feel like there are no other options or we aren't making change in our lives, it's because we are too scared. Scared of what the outcomes might be, scared that we won't be able to handle the outcomes, or scared that we might fail and we view failures as negative. I promise you, fear is what holds you back. It gets in your way of being able to think of additional options in your life. Once you defy your fear, take a leap of faith, make a different choice, reach out to somebody who has solid and logical advice. Once you do all that, you kick fear to the side and open up the floodgates to abundance, to happiness. My dear, you are never really stuck. Your ego gets the best of you, and you forget that you're fighting the truth, and you're arguing with the truth. You can't argue with the truth and hope that your life is going to change when you don't change the way you make your decisions, and when you keep making the same choices. It's just a cop-out. Hope gets you nowhere. Action takes you down the path. There are always more options available to you, but they may feel new, unusual, unfamiliar, and risky. They may feel atypical of you and may put you in a position for rejection and disapproval from others, or going out of your comfort zone. But that's not so bad. You have to get past all of that, because the only life that is at stake is yours. Everybody else is too worried about how their lives are going to turn out. Trust me, nobody really gives a shit about anybody. I mean, your family does, that kind of thing. But outside of that, most people really are so concerned about themselves that they don't really give a shit about what choices you make. That's where you got to matter to yourself more. Everybody else is too worried, like I said, about how their lives are going to turn out. So stop giving your power away to learn helplessness and to fear. It's just a pure waste of your time. Decide now that you're going to open your heart and mind to new ways of solving your challenges, and the doors of change will open, and you will get everything you need to make yourself and your life better. Trust me, people change all of the time. I hope this has brought you a different perspective, and you're able to put in place some of the things that I've talked about. Please know that I know life is hard. I know change is hard. I know choice is hard. But sometimes the hardest choices you make and the decisions you make are the best ones. I wish you a blessed day, a wonderful week, and as always, live intuitively.
Thanks for listening to The Intuitive Therapist. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share this podcast with a friend. And be sure to give us some stars and a favorable review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in.